and just share that this meeting is being recorded. So thank you everybody for joining us for our All Together Partners meeting today. We appreciate you being here. We have a lot of stuff on the agenda. Hopefully everybody was able to see that. Hillary sent that out earlier this week. So we are just going to start with a quick welcome and introduction. So fun little icebreaker that we want everybody to answer and to think about is, if you had 1 extra hour in your day, what would you use that hour for? And I would encourage you to keep it fun and not say that you would add an extra hour to your workday to get everything done that you were not able to accomplish. So, so just for the sake of, so Courtney has an idea of who she's going to be presenting to. If you can share your name, either maybe what organization you're affiliated with or who you're here representing. And then if you want to answer that icebreaker. So again, if you had 1 extra hour in your day, what would you use it for? So I will, let's have Hillary start if you don't mind.
Sure. Hillary Schuler, Community Health Partnership Coordinator and Co-Facilitator for All Together, work in Population and Community Health at Dartmouth-Hitchcock. And if I had an extra hour in my day, what would I use it for? Not work related, probably, and I feel like multiple people are going to say this, I would probably use it to work out. By the time my kids go to bed, I am completely exhausted and just collapse on Lauren, grow more caterpillars. Yeah, I've now successfully grown 2 monarch caterpillars into butterflies. We're releasing our second one today. And I think I've enjoyed this probably more than my 2.5-year-old. Spent a good portion of my morning recording the second caterpillar coming out of its chrysalis, which is actually pretty cool and happens way faster than you think. So I'm glad I got it on camera. So yeah, I definitely spend some more time doing some self-care in the form of physical activity because I've grown into quite the couch potato. But when you're chasing 2 very active little boys around, you're pretty beat by the end of the day. And Andrew, do you want me to pick somebody to go next?
Sure.
I'm going to call on Stacy.
So I'm Stacy Kilcare. I'm at Hypertherm. So I represent Hypertherm and the Hope Foundation also, I guess. Let's see. I was going to say exercise, but that feels redundant now, but definitely something around self-care. So I do a bit of that, but it's not as leisurely as I would like it to be because I'm always rushing to get on my computer and start work. So having extra time to do that would be great. Why don't I call on Danielle?
Hi, I'm Danielle. I'm the Young Adult Strategies Coordinator for the Upper Valley and Greater Sullivan County with Dartmouth-Hitchcock Population Health. If I had an extra hour, I would probably either take my dog on more walks or take her on longer walks. If it makes her sleepy, and that's good. I'll call on Lauren.
Hi, everyone. I'm Lauren Chambers. I'm a Community Health Partnership Coordinator for the Upper Valley and Greater Sullivan County Public Health Networks at Dartmouth Community Health. If I had an extra hour in my day right now, I'd probably try to sleep more. I know that's lame, but not sleeping well these days with a giant belly that's ready to pop. So I would try to sleep more. Let's see, I'll call on Bob.
Oh, let's see here. Bob Sherman, I'm with Great Eastern Radio, and I'm co-chair with Matt for All Together. And I don't know if I can legally do this, but I'd like to take that hour and add it to the hour we fall backwards in October. So I get 2 hours together and use it kind of collectively. That's what I would do with my extra time.
Very interesting. I like that. All right, Bob, do you mind calling on somebody?
Oh, Matthew and his cat.
Hi, I'm Matt Herbert. I'm with the Norwich Fire Department. And I guess if I had another hour, I'd probably do what I'm doing now. I'm hanging out with my best friend. I like him a lot more than most people I know. I think that's probably the best thing about COVID has been finding out how nice it is to not be around people. But yeah, I think I would just really enjoy just the quality time, doing what I do at home, whatever, and just not having to do anything else really.
Boy, I'm sorry I picked him. Oh, man.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to pick on Lindsay.
Fair enough. My name is Lindsay Parika, and I am the Assistant Director at Valley Court Diversion Programs, but I am also the Secretary for All Together. I would cook because I like making dinner every night, like fresh, but I don't have enough time in the week, so I do a lot of meal prep on Sundays, but I think I would cook dinner every night. And I will pick on Liz.
Liz Swanton. I manage community health at Alice Peck Day Memorial Hospital. And, you know, I'm going to repeat a lot of things, but my first thought was to sleep with my extra hour. And then I thought, oh no, that I can't say sleep. I should exercise. That would be the appropriate thing to do. But right, that's already been said. And then I thought, oh, what could I do? I could take my kid for like a bike ride or a walk, but like, right, taking the dog for a walk is kind of like taking your kid for a walk, and that's already been said. I wouldn't want to just sit on the couch, like, but I'm afraid that, well, and really, where is the hour being put is the question. Is my kid still awake or is he asleep? Because it would look much differently. He's 4.5, and so I don't know. I think I'm still gonna go with sleep.
That's a good answer.
And who hasn't spoken?
Looks like we've got Courtney who called in, and then we've got somebody else that called in with a number ending in 25.
That's me, Margaret Dry.
Oh, hi, Margaret.
Hi. I couldn't get in on the WebEx, so I'm dialing in by phone. So
All right.
I can go next if you want.
Sure.
Margaret Dry down in Plainfield. I'm with the Good Samaritan Network. And if I had an extra hour, I'd do some of those things that I, mean to do sometime, like polish some of my mom's silver, paint my toenails, all those little things that get stuck by the wayside in the rush of life. And I think we have one other person left then.
Yeah, thank you, Margaret. So Courtney, we will pass it to you and then I'll wrap it up.
Hi there, I'm Courtney Vorachak, the Recovery Coach Navigator for Dartmouth-Hitchcock in the Emergency Department. And if I had an extra hour each day, I would do some reading for leisure. I really miss just being able to read books that I enjoy.
I feel you on that one, Courtney. I think that was probably going to be mine, but then when Lindsay said hers, well, actually, let me back up. So I'm Andrea Smith. I work with Danielle, Courtney, Hillary, Lauren, the whole gang at the Community Health Department of Population Health at Dartmouth-Hitchcock. I focus on substance misuse prevention, and I'm one of the co-facilitators of All Together. And yeah, so I think if I had an extra hour every day, I probably am going to join Lindsay with the cooking. I don't particularly enjoy cooking, but I think it's because I'm not very good at it. So I would like to take that time to really hone in those skills and become a better chef. I don't know if that'll ever happen. It's a miracle if I don't burn dinner or if it's something that is edible. So we'll work on that. Thanks, everybody. We're trying to find some just fun icebreakers more than just a simple, the thing that's been used everywhere. So thank you for indulging us with that. So we will move next on to staff updates. I know we don't have a whole heck of a lot, but I will start with Danielle. If you have anything you want to share, I know Danielle's going to talk a little bit later about more specifically the work that she's doing, but if you have any just general staff updates you want to share.
I don't think I have anything generally. I'll wait till later when I have my time to talk.
Sounds good. Hillary, I'll pass it over to you.
Sure, a couple of updates. So if you guys might remember earlier this summer, I should say, we put out was supposed to be the 2020 turned into 2021 community survey for All Together that gets done every other year. It was supposed to be done in 2020, but we held off and instead saved it for 2021 due to COVID. And so we have gotten the results for that. And based off of the results, we didn't have a lot of responses for the community survey this year compared to 2018, which was a little bit of a bummer. But based off of those survey responses, Andrea and I have talked about and have decided to hold some parent caregiver discussion forums in the Upper Valley. So we're planning on doing a discussion forum for parents, caregivers that either live or have kiddos that reside in the towns that feed into our school district. So thinking about Lebanon, the Dresden School District, Rivendell, and Mascoma. Each district will have their own day starting next week. We have one on the 29th, 30th, and then October 6th and 7th from 7:30 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. We just want to hear from people what they're seeing, hearing in the community related to youth substance use and youth mental health. And so we will make sure that we put the flyer in the minutes, but would love some help disseminating the information in the flyer out to the community. So far, we have 2 people registered to attend one of our discussion forums. And we talked earlier today, depending on how, attendance is, if we don't have anyone attending, we're not going to stop. We're going to find a different avenue, either try a different time to hold these discussion forums with parents and caregivers. Maybe the evening time doesn't work, so maybe we try a lunch hour, or maybe we try to have some more specific, like one-on-one conversations with someone in the community that really wants to make sure that their voice is heard and let us know what they're seeing and hearing in the community. But would love some help disseminating that flyer. It's currently been put out to the Upper Valley listserv. It's been on our All Together Facebook page, which was then shared to some Upper Valley Facebook groups. We sent it to the student assistant providers at the schools to disseminate to parents, and it was sent out in the Upper Valley Public Health Council's meeting minutes as well. But would love some additional support and additional help if you know anybody that would be interested in attending to make sure that their voice is heard. And yes, Lindsay, we have sent it to, we'll be sending it to Megan at Lebanon to get out to her folks as well. And then another quick update. So Andrea and I next week are going to be doing a 3-day training for mental health first aid. Pretty excited. This is luckily a free training opportunity coming from UNH Cooperative Extension. I just recently was able to get a spot. Andrea has been signed up for a while and they luckily had a spot open up. So we're pretty excited to be able to have 2 people from All Together get this training. Emily Zanlione and Kelly from Hartford Community Coalition are also trained in mental health first aid. So now once Andrea and I complete this, there will be 4 of us in our region who are able to offer this to, and Andrea and I were talking today, we're pretty sure it's for anyone who works with youth. It doesn't have to be school faculty and staff. It can be anyone that's working with youth to provide this mental health first aid training. So more to come on that, but thank you so much for your help in getting our flyer about our discussion forums out.
Thanks, Hillary. Lauren, do you have any updates you'd like to share?
I don't have any major updates, but I'll just mention, I don't think I've said this to this group in a while at least, but there have been a slight uptick in overdoses in the Upper Valley recently over the summer. So I just want to remind folks that if you're interested in getting Narcan kits or getting trained in Narcan, you can reach out to me. We get Narcan from the doorway at Dartmouth-Hitchcock, and we can provide the training to you or businesses, anyone really. So I just want to remind you that that is available. I'll also just mention that this doesn't really impact many of you, but we have a suicide prevention training coming up for the Lebanon School District next week or the week after. Can't remember which date we're going with. One date anyway. So we'll be training the Lebanon school staff on suicide prevention. It's something that New Hampshire schools have to do every year. So we're happy to be able to offer that. I believe Andrea is going to be training that with a Lebanon school staff member. And yeah, I don't think I have many other updates.
Yeah,
Matt,
Matt,
you
do you have a question? Oh, sorry.
I do have a question for Lauren. When you were talking about Narcan, this week I'm finishing up a first responder class that I'm teaching. It's a pilot program in Vermont, and it's within their scope of practice to administer Narcan. Would it be possible for me to get some so I could distribute it to my students that are graduating?
So it's their
Yes.
EMTs? I don't know about Vermont, but I know that in New Hampshire, EMTs in their official professional capacity cannot access the free Narcan from the doorway because they're obligated to purchase and stock it for their trucks and stuff in New Hampshire. If you wanted to gather a group of lay people together and they were interested in having some Narcan, maybe, but I would double check on the rules in Vermont first.
Well, the rules in Vermont, I mean, actually, they can get it for free from Vermont. It's within the
Oh, good.
scope of practice at all EMS levels. I just thought if you had lots to give out, I would hit you up for freebies, but I'll just go through official channels.
Sure. Let me know if you hit any roadblocks with that. We can explore other options.
Okay.
I would also suggest, or maybe you've already done this, but contacting the Upper Valley Business Alliance and putting the offer there for the Narcan.
Yes. Yes, I'm actually also starting to try and gather some data from some of the major police departments. I'm asking them for locations of their overdose calls to see if any of them are happening in public places, businesses, town commons, town squares, whatever, so that we can then do some outreach with those locations to offer Narcan and training. Because a lot of the Narcan training requests I've been getting over the last couple months have actually just been placed like public places or businesses, either because they've experienced overdoses on site or they just want to know how to use it and want to be prepared. So that's an excellent idea. Thank you, Liz.
I also just want to say we finally launched our Nalox box program where we have the Nalox box next to all the AEDs in all our buildings and the Narcan's in there. We sent out, kind of education on how it is, and our first aid team and our safety champs are all trained and stuff. So if any businesses you talk to are interested in learning more about that, feel free to send them my way. I'm happy to share.
Yeah, thank you, Stacy. That's great.
Thanks, Lauren. So the only update that I really have, I just want to let people know that the National Prescription Drug Take Back Day event is scheduled for October 23rd. The DEA just recently emailed all of the police chiefs across the state of New Hampshire to get them to sign up. So at this point, we don't have an idea which police departments will be participating. I'm hoping it's going to be the same as every other event, which is basically pretty much all of the departments in our region, minus maybe one that's a pretty small one. So please mark that on your calendar. So it's a great opportunity to do some fall cleaning of your medicine cabinet. If you have some aging family members, it's nice to go to their house and help them clean out their medicine cabinet. Again, it'll be at local police departments, the ones that are participating, from 10 to 2 on that Saturday, October 23rd. We are trying to do some different advertising this time. I think it's been relatively successful across the few we've done. I think maybe 3 since I've joined, or 2. And the numbers seem to be pretty much the same as what they always are. But we are actually partnering with Mascoma Bank this year to be featured as their nonprofit statement stuffer for the month of October. So if anybody is a Mascoma Bank, a member of Mascoma Bank, and if you get the physical like hard copies of your statements, you should get a flyer that we've created advertising just about Take Back Day in that. So we're hoping to reach just an additional population outside of the social media and radio advertising efforts. And I think, Bob, we've got somebody on our team that either has been in contact with you or will be about getting some Take Back Day ads going. We've got some DFC funds to pay for that. So if we haven't been in contact yet, we will be shortly. So again, just hoping to reach more people than what we normally can reach with advertising, especially those maybe, again, in the aging population that still get those physical hard copies of their statements in the mail. And then we are super excited to be partnering with Hypertherm to be able to offer an outside, like outside of Take Back Day event specific for the Hypertherm employees. I know that our department has done this in the past with, I don't even know the name, which is really embarrassing because it's in our building, but the aging, is it the Aging Resource Center? Is that the name of them? That's awful, but they've been basically shut down since I started. So, so it's been done in the past where you do an outside event, you know, outside of actual Take Back Day. But Stacy, you know, approached us to see if that's something we can offer, and Lebanon Police Department was on board and willing to staff that. So we're really excited to be able to partner and be able to give, you know, one of our larger employers in the area, give their employees the opportunity to be able to bring in those unused and unwanted medications right at their work location. And we'll have like the all together table set up with some resources, information, Narcan, things like that available for them. So just, you know, want to thank you, Stacy, for the idea. We're really excited to partner with you, and I'm learning a lot. There's a lot of hoops you have to go through with the DEA and with the Attorney General to be able to make that happen. And no, all very good, and it's very doable hoops, but it's a great learning experience for me, and hopefully, you know, as COVID, I know we say this pretty much every time, but as COVID hopefully starts to get a little bit better, then maybe in April we can do this with other employers as well, and you know, just kind of expand our efforts with Take Back Day. So it's a great learning experience for me. That will, I haven't confirmed with Stacy, but I'm assuming that will be closed off just for the employees of Hypertherm. But again, on the actual date of Take Back Day, which is the 23rd, that's the community-wide event. Go to your local police department that's participating and safely dispose of those drugs. So, excuse me, those medications. I think that's kind of it for me. I think Lauren or Hillary touched on the other stuff. Again, we're just excited to be able to offer mental health resources for the community. Again, Lauren and I are trained in Connect suicide prevention, and then Hillary and I are getting trained in the mental health first aid. As you know, across this past year, that's been kind of the biggest thing that people have talked about is their concern with mental health in youth in our region. So we're just excited to be able to offer that as a resource to people in the community, to our schools, to businesses, people, anything like that. Any questions for us before we move on to Courtney? All right, so Courtney, I am going to pass it over to you. So Courtney Vorachak is our recovery coach navigator at Dartmouth-Hitchcock, and she's going to just talk to us a little bit. You've got half an hour, Courtney, but take as much time as you need to talk about her role as a recovery coach navigator at Dartmouth-Hitchcock, talk a little bit about recovery pathways and a little bit about stigma and language. So I please encourage you, once she's done, to ask her, you know, as many questions as you have. She's here, she's our guru with that, and will be able to answer, you know, anything you throw at her. I'm confident in that. So Courtney, if you want to take it away.
Perfect, thank you. Again, my name is Courtney Vorachak. I am the recovery coach navigator at Dartmouth-Hitchcock, primarily in the emergency department. And what that means for me is any patients that come in that are looking for recovery resources to get connected and go to residential treatment programs, transitional living, potentially a detox program, or really just get some resources and education around harm reduction, recovery. And I'm seeing a lot of folks come into the emergency department that aren't necessarily from the region or have recently relocated to the Upper Valley, so they're not necessarily aware of what we have to offer them. So essentially what happens is people come in through the emergency department specifically for assistance with withdrawal or detox, or they're there for some other mental health crisis or medical emergency. And if they're identified as a patient that has a substance use disorder or is in need of some recovery resource support, I get to meet with them and just kind of understand what's going on for them, where they're at, and kind of what they're needing, and use my toolbox of community resources and really connect them to those services. That's like the main part of what my job is. I do follow up with patients within the community after they're discharged from the hospital. So that's long-term check-ins and just making sure they have the support that they need, or helping them get to a higher level of care, whatever that means for them. I'll pause there for a second and just see if there's any questions kind of just based on what I do, what my scope, what my role is, and then I can go on to the rest of the stuff. Again, I'm on the phone, so I don't know if anyone has questions. So if they're in the chat, or if you guys just want to unmute yourself and ask them.
Courtney, this is Margaret Dry. I'm also on the phone. Can I ask you how's it residential? What is there a waiting list for that, or do you find it easy to place people that need that, or are you finding it difficult?
I would say getting folks into residential programs is not something I'm doing directly from the emergency department. I will say in my last 4 years of working there full time, it's only happened once, so that is pretty tricky to navigate. I think because of COVID, there's definitely been a longer waiting list just because there's a lot of people in treatment right now, and they're not able to offer as many beds and availability, so that is something that's been harder to navigate.
Thank you.
Any other questions at this point?
Doesn't look like it, Courtney.
Okay, perfect. So the next kind of part of what I'm going to chat about is just different recovery pathways, barriers to recovery, and some stigma in language that we see. As Lauren had mentioned, in the later part of the summer, midsummer, we saw quite a few overdoses. I think in the Valley News, they highlighted 4 overdoses that happened in front of Kilton Library in West Lebanon. So we're definitely seeing an uptake of overdoses. We've also seen an increase in fatal overdoses. So, you know, making sure people know what is available and how to talk about addiction and recovery. And I'm not sure if everyone or anyone saw the Valley News report on the overdoses, but even looking through that article, being mindful of some of the language that we use. So, you know, dirty versus clean, junkie, addict, those types of terminologies aren't helpful for individuals. There's a lot of shame and guilt and stigma within that. And those can be barriers for people reaching out because they don't want to be labeled or grouped in with that type of terms. So just being mindful of how we talk about addiction. And if you don't know non-stigmatizing language, I'll send Andrea a one-page worksheet that we kind of have that has different language on it that's not stigmatizing. And we know that that is a major barrier for individuals just saying like, hey, I'm struggling right now and I need some support. People don't want to be treated like crap because they struggle with substance use disorder. So just being mindful in how we're talking about that and the conversations that we're having. And I'm assuming because everyone's on this call, they are open to having conversations about substance use disorder and learning about substance use disorder and using stigma-free language. But I think when we have individuals that come to us when they're wanting to talk about addiction and substances or even mental health, how we have those conversations is really, really important, and that we're not judging them. And if we don't know something, it's okay to just ask and just be like, hey, I'm not familiar with that. Like, what does that mean? What does that mean to you? And then truly just ask the person, like, how can I help you? And what do you need? Right? Because I think especially when we talk about addiction and mental health, there's kind of like these pre-scripted roles that we've kind of always fallen into and done. And I think especially right now, just asking people what they need. I will say for myself, a lot of people come in through the emergency department saying that they need help getting to residential, when in reality, they're experiencing homelessness and they're using substances to kind of cope and they're operating in survival mode, and they really need support with housing. So just asking people, like, how can I help you today? What can I do for you? And thinking about recovery as a spectrum opposed to an all or nothing. There's a really big movement with the recovery network right now about talking about harm reduction, and abstinence-based recovery doesn't necessarily work for everyone. Some people do need abstinence-based recovery, and then other people potentially need medication-assisted recovery, or they use a moderation harm reduction model. And when I refer to harm reduction, I'm not just simply talking about the substance that they're using and kind of monitoring that use and making sure they're using as safe as possible, but harm reduction in my example of an individual experiencing homelessness, like how can you get them connected to the local homeless shelter? How can you get them connected with 211? Those types of things. So reducing harms in general across the spectrum. And really just listening to what people are needing and what they have, what they need, and what they're wanting to do. Because I think those are different things, and we forget that what someone wants and what they're willing to do don't always align. And I also think with recovery, it can be very emotional and very emotionally taxing, that sometimes we forget what we want isn't what necessarily the person in front of us wants. So having conversations about what do you want for your recovery? What do you want for right now? What does that look like? And how can I help? And I think that's the biggest question that we need to ask, is simply, how can I help? And coming from a place of genuinely wanting to help individuals. Again, I think that's where kind of why we're all on this call, because we want to see our community doing better, and we want to see the individuals in our community thriving. That's kind of the big role of my job. I also get individuals connected to Narcan. So I have free Narcan that I give out to any patients or family members that have opiate use disorder or know someone that have opiate use disorder. Getting them, I'm really kind of the bridge between being in the hospital in the emergency department and getting back into the community. So connecting people with like Good Neighbor Health Clinic or the Needle Exchange Program or any of our MAT providers in the community. That's really what a big part of my role is. And really just talking to people about notions and concepts that we have about addiction and substance use disorders, and kind of asking people, does that actually make sense? And how can we treat individuals as individuals opposed to their substance use disorder or their mental health diagnoses? That's kind of all I got for today. If there's any questions or comments or anything like that.
Thank you, Courtney. Yeah, I have a couple of questions, but if anybody has some other ones, please feel free to go ahead and ask Courtney. I'll ask go ahead, Matt.
Just in listening and being, as you said, basically hospital-based, do you feel satisfied with the level of outreach, or do you feel frustrated, or do you think there are other avenues that you'd like to explore in terms of reaching the population that really needs to be reached?
Oh, that's a good loaded question, Matt. I think doing outreach with patients, it can be very difficult. A large portion of this population, they don't necessarily always have cell phone access. They don't have transportation. A lot of individuals don't have cell phones, or they don't have safe housing because they're transient. So the level of outreach, I would say, is limited just by the nature of individuals that have substance use disorder and mental health diagnoses. I would say we're on like great steps where we have the West Central Behavioral Health Mobile Crisis Team starting now, but I think other cities that I've been to and kind of what they do is having people out in the community I would love to see that, having people at the bus station, having people, you know, on the green, having people at the city hall, just really out there talking to people. That would be amazing, but I don't think we're there yet. So yes, I would love to see a different level of outreach and a different kind of outreach, but I don't think we necessarily are ready for it.
Go ahead, Lauren.
Courtney, can you tell us a little bit about, you know, any trends you're seeing in who's coming into the ED, for what ages, things like that? Like, what is the most common, what are you seeing as far as in the Upper Valley?
Yeah, so for right now, the trends, and kind of a trend that's always been, is middle-aged gentlemen with alcohol use disorder. In all my years of the work I've done in the Upper Valley, those have always been the most prevalent populations. And I think the major reason they're coming into the emergency department that I've seen is they're having some other type of health crisis, some other health episode, and it's identified that they're also heavy drinkers, and that's contributing to their health conditions. That is the largest population that I see. That is most of the patients that I interact with. I'm also seeing a large intake of younger individuals with opiate use disorder and stimulant use disorder. We're seeing a lot of methamphetamines, not as much bath salts as we were previously. It's mostly fentanyl, not even heroin anymore, and methamphetamines. We're seeing a combination of those two things. So a lot of people coming in what is identified as a mental health kind of crisis, where it's actually a psychosis induced by their stimulant use. Those are the biggest trends that I've currently been seeing. But alcohol is the most prevalent substance that we're seeing individuals seeking resources for.
Courtney, this is Andrea. When you say younger people for like the stimulants, is that like the young adult population, or are we talking high school age youth? Do you have a rough idea of kind of age range?
Yeah, so I would say for high school, we're still seeing mostly alcohol kids come in that are intoxicated, or marijuana. We're seeing a lot of kids come in that are smoking a lot of marijuana and are not able to control like vomiting and getting really dehydrated and stuff like that. For the stimulants, I would say it's usually 19 to 27. There are a couple of older individuals with stimulant use, but mostly it's younger, and I would say it's that 19 to 27-year-olds with the stimulants, and mostly methamphetamines.
Thanks, Courtney. Anybody else have other questions? I still have one more, but anybody else?
Are you the only recovery coach in the ED, or is there a whole team?
Great question. So I am the only recovery coach in the emergency department. For Dartmouth-Hitchcock, we have 4 recovery coaches throughout the whole institution. We have Sherry Breyer, who's at the Moms in Recovery program. We have Justin Wardell, who's part of the addiction treatment program / Doorways. We have myself in the emergency department, and then we also have Sarah Mullins, who's part of the BIT team, which is our behavioral intervention team with inpatient psychiatry.
And so I'm curious, since I work at APD, I'm curious if you happen to know what we have in the ED. Any idea?
Last time I was told you had a social worker. I honestly do not know what you have in your ED.
We'll have to look into that.
I know it was probably like a year and a half or maybe even 2 years ago. I created a resource binder that was delivered to the emergency department there that was full of just local community-based resources where for people to get Narcan, the Upper Valley Treatment Guide. There was AA, NA list, and then a whole list of MAT providers, IOPs, and outpatient providers. I'm not sure if it still exists, if it's utilized or anything like that. If it's not, reach out to me and I can create another one and deliver that for you.
Yeah, I'll do that. That's great. Thanks.
Courtney, I'm curious if you can share just a little bit of the work that you're doing on providing more information for the providers in the emergency department in terms of that like the stigma language around speaking with patients and things like that. Is that something that you can just chat a little bit about?
Yeah, of course. I think stigma and language are a massive part of how we talk. Is, you know, we learn how we talk, and we learn how to talk based on the individuals around us. And in medical settings, and I will especially say medical settings that I've seen where there are a lot of physical, just like medical traumas, sometimes we aren't mindful of our language, and we can get into deep water before we know it. I think it's also tricky when we're talking with individuals that self-identify as alcoholics or addicts, or that's the terminology that they feel empowered to call themselves. Sometimes we adapt to that language, even though it may be helpful or not helpful. So some of the work that I've done in the emergency department is really working with providers and helping them understand what is addiction, how do words impact the way people are perceived, and the care that individuals get in the emergency department. So we know no matter where you are, whether you're in an emergency department or not, if you come in and you're well-dressed and you look put together, you get treated a different way than if you come in and you look disheveled and your hair's a mess. So really just treating individuals as individuals opposed to how they present. One of the major things that I'm doing in the department with providers is we did just like a brief little presentation to them about how language impacts. And we just, I'm not sure if anyone's familiar with the Recovery Coach Academy, but kind of did like, what do you think, what terms come to your mind when you think of someone that has an alcohol use disorder, an opiate use disorder? And really those labels and terms that we are often associated with individuals that have these diagnoses, and kind of breaking down some of those thought processes that we have that I don't necessarily think we think about. We're so conditioned to use these words and language. So really just questioning like, hey, why did we use that term opposed to someone that has an alcohol use disorder, an opiate use disorder? Why are we using stigmatizing language? And really just approaching it in a non-confrontational way and not really trying to hurt anyone's feelings or attack anyone, but just saying like, hey, what if we use this language opposed to this language? I've also created different flyers throughout the emergency department, and it just says like language matters and how we talk about ourselves and others is important. And it just has that same type of language that I'm gonna send to Andrea to share with you folks about using instead of clean or dirty, active reuse, relapse, those types of things. Just being mindful of how we talk to people and just correcting people in a non-confrontational, judgmental way, and just being open about the conversation.
Thank you, Courtney. Any other questions for Courtney?
I have a question. Courtney, it's Hillary. Trying to put a positive spin on what can sometimes be a pretty heavy conversation. Could you tell us what you find the most rewarding part of your job is?
Oh, that's a good question. Thank you, Hillary. I would say the most rewarding part of my job is when I'm able to meet with a patient and just make sure that they're seen and heard while they're in the emergency department. If anyone's ever been to the emergency department, it's not an ideal place to go. Don't suggest it unless you really need to be there. So just sitting with someone and making sure that they're seen as the person that they are in front of you and having an honest conversation with them and just seeing them feel comfortable to be themselves. Really watching people be open and trustworthy and be willing to have those conversations is the most rewarding part of my job, to make sure that people are seen and feel respected.
Thank you, Courtney. Any other questions?
Margaret here. I have one question kind of along that line. We know that the hospital's visitors kind of who can go in the hospital with somebody has been changing all the last year and a half. Like where you can have one visitor, no visitor. Does that impact the way a person's visit to the emergency room goes if they don't have other support?
Yeah, I would definitely say that does make an impact on it. And sometimes that supportive person is really good, and sometimes that supportive person isn't ideal to be there for the whole time. I would say not being able to have someone come in with them is definitely a barrier for people coming in for more of the addiction, mental health, kind of social determinants types of things going on in their world. But we're still seeing people come in, and I think that's good. But yeah, I think that definitely is a barrier and does make it tricky to kind of walk into a space where you already feel like you're going to be judged for the reason you're going there, definitely.
Well, thank you so much, Courtney. It looks like everybody has asked a question if they had one. So we, like Hillary put in the chat in the minutes, we will include Courtney's contact information so that you have that you can contact her with any follow-up questions from this discussion. And then we will also include in those minutes the document that she sends to us related to stigma and language and things like that. So again, thank you so much, Courtney, for taking the time to talk with us and share with us about the work that you're doing. And I think a lot of people may not know that this is, a service that's offered or a resource that's available for people at the emergency department. And so I think it's important to get out to the community that when they go there, they've got somebody that's going to be on their side to help, help maybe advocate for them and help them ensure that they are feeling respected and heard and seen. So thank you for everything that you do, Courtney. And again, we will include her contact info if you want to have some offline conversations with her more specifically about the work she does. So Courtney, we're going to move on to a few other things. So please feel free to stay on if you would like. Otherwise, I know you're kind of in transit. So feel free also to hop off if you need to.
Wonderful. Thank you all so much for allowing me to come and chat with you. And again, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, please reach out to me and we'll be in touch.
Great. Thanks, Courtney.
Thank you.
All right, so we are a little bit ahead of schedule, so let's pass it over to Danielle. So Danielle's going to talk a little bit about the work that she's doing, some of the young adult strategies that she's developed, and I'm not sure what else you're going to talk about. So take it away, Danielle.
All right. Hi, everyone. For those of you who might have hopped on late, I'm Danielle. I'm the Young Adult Strategies Coordinator for the Upper Valley and Greater Sullivan County for Dartmouth-Hitchcock Public Health. So I'm going to quickly run through my action plan and a few of the things I'll be doing that pertain to that. So first, we'll be running mental health campaigns. We'll be doing that around the holidays. We'll also be holding recovery coach trainings in the spring. And then I recently, as well as Lauren, got certified to give the Resilience and Thriving training for the National Wellness Institute. So this is a training that we'll be targeting young adults for 18 to 25-year-olds. I'll be specifically going into workplaces, hopefully. So this is a training that, empowers young adults to recognize life stressors and build effective skills in coping. So that's the reason we're targeting the work sector mostly, is because, there can be a lot of stress in that sector. So if anyone has any, ideas of places I could go for that, that would be really helpful. Anywhere that employs a lot of 18 to 25-year-olds, or where a lot of 18 to 25-year-olds would be. And then lastly, be conducting an assets and gaps assessment for young adults, specifically around mental health and substance misuse. So as a part of this assessment, I'll be conducting key informant interviews, as well as focus groups, and potentially a survey. So for the focus groups that are upcoming, there's one with 18 to 25-year-olds, so that's the young adult one. And then one with employers of 18 to 25-year-olds, and then one with college staff who work with the 18 to 25-year-olds. So I know I've already spoke to a few people on this call about those different focus groups. But if anyone else, knows any young adults that would be willing to participate, or knows any employers that have a lot of 18 to 25-year-olds that work for them, or any, key connections at the colleges around, I do have a few connections, but I'm always looking for more. So yeah, if I can put my email in the chat, and I can also put the flyer that I've created for the young adult focus groups in the chat. And if anyone has any connections that they think would be helpful for signing up for those, that would be awesome. Does anyone have any questions? Yeah.
I have an initial reaction,
Mhm.
and I'm thinking about, you when you mentioned the 18 to 25-year-old groups and workplaces, and I keep thinking about every time I go to the Upper Valley, that's the age group that I'm encountering in retail, whether it's Price Chopper or Old Navy or something like that. And I know that those types of jobs can be very transient, and for you to try to connect with people could be very difficult. And I'm just wondering, is your flyer a leave behind kind of thing? Is it something that's put in the employee bathroom so people can see it in privacy and not worry about stigma or anything? It just, because that's a group that's going to be interacting with other members of the public all the time, where there's resources, good or bad. And I'm just wondering, I don't know how you'd capture that, but it seems like that's quite a target audience.
Yeah. Yeah. So as far as the resilience and thriving training goes, that is something that they'll have to sit down with us and do, or me and do the training. Right now it's done. It's, designed to be 90 minutes. We're gonna be shortening it, especially if we want to reach those certain industries, especially like the restaurant industries, and those industries, because they're not gonna have 90 minutes. So yeah, we're gonna work on shortening it, and really bringing it down to what's important that they hear, and what they want to hear. So yeah, we acknowledge that it is going to be challenging, especially for this age group and for, the sectors that we're looking at, as far as employers go. But yeah, I don't know if I have a good answer to your question. As far as that training goes, they have to be sitting in front of us and doing it. There is the potential for us to create flyers that have, some information that can be left behind.
Other questions for Danielle and the work that she is taking on with the young adult strategies?
Oh, I know. Just one note, Danielle, I got your email earlier and I do remember you, so that's a good thing.
Okay.
And I'll either send you an email, or I might just call you to kind of go over some of the details that you sent me about that, and
Okay.
make some recommendations and go from there.
that works out. Thank you.
Yeah.
Other questions, comments?
Are you looking, you said college, so are you looking just for Dartmouth or did you try River Valley? Because I know they're in session.
Yeah, we reached out to River Valley and Colby Sawyer as well.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a few people that I believe are circulating the flyer and or signing up for the college staff one.
Awesome.
We're also looking to reach, the 18 to 25-year-olds that are not in college as well, which is a little bit harder. So if anyone has ideas or suggestions of where we can outreach or post a flyer for that non-college attending age group, we've reached out to a few places that might have young adults. There's like a young adult professionals group in the Upper Valley. A lot of school districts, K to 12 school districts, might employ that age range. So we've reached out to them, but if you have other ideas, please send them our way.
A couple of my kids did some like UPS because if they're not in college, they're at, like UPS and FedEx because they work for like 4 hours a day, and like the kids really like that because they have a lot of free time. So I would think about UPS and FedEx for sure. Also restaurants. I mean, that's where a lot of these kids are going right now. But I think River Valley would be interesting because I think a lot of those 18 to 25, yes, they're in college, but they also work too. So they're like best of both worlds kind of situation.
And I know I connected you with someone here at Hypertherm, but also you might consider Geocon Fuji Dramatics because they all have entry-level positions that they'll hire right out of high school. So if you need contacts at those places, let me know. I'm happy to connect you. I also wondered about UniFirst. I don't know anyone there, but they're on, is it Etna Road or Great Hollow Road? I think it's Etna Road there in Lebanon. And my guess is that they probably hire high school.
And maybe even the Hartford Tech program. I bet you could hit some 18-year-olds that are like doing their like the tech programming or whatever.
Yep.
Thank you, everybody, for those suggestions. And again, if Danielle has not already reached out to you, I'm sure she'll be tapping into you for your knowledge and suggestions and things like that. So thanks, Danielle. Okay, next up. Oh, sorry. What'd you say?
I was just saying thank you.
Oh, thanks. Okay, we wanted to spend just a little bit of time because we realized that that we have sent out some emails to folks asking for just your input in terms of what we should be adding to our work plans for this year. I think Lauren is still working on maybe finalizing yours, or maybe you just submitted yours, I can't remember, but we wanted to at least share from the SMP. So again, that's my role, the Substance Misuse Prevention Coordinator, and Hillary's role, the Drug-Free Communities Coordinator. We wanted to share just some kind of highlights of the work that we plan on doing this year. Again, we'll just pick maybe 2 or 3 things from each of our work plans just to give you an idea and maybe get kind of the wheels turning in your mind to see if there's any way that you can help us further that work. So just, it's the age-old thing that we keep hearing, but with COVID really not changing drastically last year, there were still things on both of the work plans, both the SMP and DFC work plans that were put on hold. So those will be kind of rolled into the work plans. We'll continue to work on those this year. And then in both of those work plans, there are items on there that are just a yearly thing that we're always doing. So in terms of working with the schools on helping them update any policies or create policies, just work like that, our information sharing with the community, all of that stuff are things that we do just continuously every year. So those will stay the same. But again, just wanted to highlight on a few, maybe few new things that we're working on. So the first thing that I'll share is just we'll continue to try to bring in different types of educational forums and workshops. When we're trying to do that in a different way, we understand that parents, caregivers, adults in the community are still very much kind of virtualed out. So we'll be kind of, cognizant of that, but at this time, with the Delta variant and kind of the uncertainty, we're still not quite ready to do in-person trainings to offer for people, and we don't think that the people in the community are quite ready for that yet, as well. Hopefully that will change come springtime. But just looking for different things that we can offer. So right now we have a Staying Connected with Your Teen workshop that is scheduled to start at the end of October. It's a 5-series workshop, and it's meant for adults and caregivers of, it's a certain age range. I can't remember what it is, maybe 12 to 18 or something like that. But that will be virtual, and that is, we're partnering with the New Hampshire Teen Institute to provide that. We have 2 trainings of Vaping Unveiled, which will be virtual. And that's meant for the community to learn a little bit about some of the newer trends around vaping, vape products across New Hampshire. And I just spoke with the person that's going to be doing that training, and she does have some updated information. So it might be worth, if you haven't attended one of those in a few years, to hop on to this training just to hear what's new. Bye, Liz. Thanks for hopping on. And yeah, so we've got some of those prepared. We do have funding through, I think, both DFC and our Sober Truth to be able to purchase Operation Parent Handbooks in the spring. So the end of the school year, we were able to provide those to the schools. Pretty much every school, I think, took us up on that offer. And we have a larger budget to do that. So hoping to do some more targeted work around providing that as a resource to parents and caregivers in our community. And to be able to bring those at tabling events, because we're just now finally starting to be able to do tabling events. And then as usual, we unfortunately have been super delayed with just kind of some back end things, but we are working with Lindsay and with Hartford Community Coalition to produce some parent education video type things. So we'll talk a little bit more about that once that comes to fruition a bit more. So just wanted to let you know we're always open to additional educational opportunities. So please share with us if you hear people in the community saying we really want to hear more about XYZ. Let us know, and we'll see how we can make that happen. The other thing, like Hillary already talked about, we are holding those discussion groups following the community survey results, but a big part of what we want to do is to be able to present that information to the entire community in various ways. So I think maybe at the next meeting, we will do a quick presentation with the results for the folks that attend this partners meeting. We'll try to work with the school districts to get that information in front of school staff. And doing kind of social media to get that, bits of information out. So just wanted to let you know that that we plan to share that information. And for me, we've already talked about the mental health first aid training. So again, we're hoping to hold 2 to 3 of those in this first year. And then the last thing that we really want to work on is increasing our youth engagement. At this point, just because of COVID, some schools were letting outside people in, some schools weren't. We really weren't able to do anything super youth related last year, and we would really like to change that and increase youth involvement. So we'd like to work with at least one youth group on a specific prevention campaign. So whether that is doing maybe a poster contest for the Take Back Day that happens in April, and the winner is the the poster that we use to do all of our advertising across the region, or maybe both regions. Or maybe it's working with them on Alcohol Awareness Month to do some education, in the schools on that. Maybe it's working with them during National Prevention Week in May. So it's still open to kind of ideas of what that's going to look like, but really hoping to work with the schools to have some already formed groups of youth to have them work on that. So those are some of the I'd say major things in the substance misuse prevention work plan. So Hillary, I'll pass it over to you to talk about a couple from the Drug-Free Communities work plan.
Sure, thank you. So similar, as Andrea mentioned, COVID derailed quite a few of the activities on this current year's work plan. So when we were writing our year 8 work plan, some of that stuff we wanted to make sure that we carried over. So some of it might sound familiar to you guys, but did also want to let you know our work plans are also linked on our Altogether website. So if you want to look at them in a little bit more detail, we do have links on our website to the Google folder where you can view our work plans. So couple of things that I want to highlight. There are some similarities between my DFC work plan and Andrea's work plan, so I'm not going to repeat information. One of the things we have in our DFC budget, money to pay for 4 youth to attend the New Hampshire Teen Institute's Youth Leadership Summer program, the Youth Summit. It happens over the summer. It didn't happen this year. So we're really in hopes that we can sort of build our youth engagement. Would love to be able to offer for youth in our region the opportunity to go to this leadership summit. Would be awesome for them to get some leadership experience. I don't know if we've ever sent a youth to the leadership summit, so it would be pretty fantastic to be able to do that. When we started to be able to table at events, Andrea and I went to the Lebanon Police Department's National Night Out in early August, and we brought medication lock boxes with us to the event, thinking maybe we'd hand out a couple. I think we brought 5 with us, not knowing really what to expect. We handed out every single one of them, and people were asking for more. So we were able in this year's DFC budget to put in some more money to be able to purchase more of those medication lock boxes. So in thinking of our work plan, a few of the avenues that we want to distribute those lock boxes outside of just community events is to look at distributing some of these lock boxes at the marijuana dispensary that's in the Upper Valley. Also wanting to do some more engagement with them in regards to prevention, making sure that they're aware of who we are, what we can offer, and do some potential social media campaign around marijuana as well related to the dispensary. I didn't even know we had a dispensary. I had to look it up. And it's convenient that it's near an oral surgeon's office. But anyway, we'd like to do some more work with them. One of the things that was in last year's work plan that we're carrying over to this year is to engage 2 schools in a substance use mapping assessment. So we were talking yesterday with our evaluator, Epiphany Community Services, who coordinates our community survey, and trying to figure out, what does this look like? What does this substance use mapping assessment look like with 2 schools? And it really can be anything that we're interested in. But we really want to have conversations with the school's student assistance providers and talk to them about what are they seeing, what are they hearing, what's the school's readiness to be able to engage in some of this policy change and some of this prevention work within the school, and just get a sort of an understanding, this baseline level of what's currently happening, what do the schools want more from us, that way we can continue to sort of increase what we can offer, and then help us build up a more robust work plan in the years to come once we have that sort of baseline level and understand the readiness in our region, especially as it relates to schools. And then one other thing, in sort of combination with the Vaping Unveiled, wanting to do some more educational outreach around the harms of cigarette use outside of vaping too. So just making sure people are still understanding that cigarette use itself is still harmful, not necessarily getting away from putting that messaging out there and focusing just on vaping, but wanting to do it together so people know all of the harms related to cigarette use and vaping. But yeah, so that's kind of what we've got. There's a ton of stuff on our work plan. That was just a little snapshot of what we've got going on for the year. But things can change. We're not set in stone to, how we do and how we accomplish these things. So if folks have ideas, or as we start to do these community and parent and caregiver discussion forums, and as we're hearing things about what people are seeing and hearing in our community related to substance use and youth mental health, we would love to be able to sort of pivot a bit and make sure that we're addressing the things that our community needs and is ready to address. The questions, anyone have questions?
You guys definitely don't sound like you'll be bored at all. You'll be keeping plenty busy.
That's the hope. Hopefully we can get into schools. That's the thing that I think we're all really, really hoping for, to be able to get in front of youth. Andrea and I did do a presentation, a very brief presentation to parents of incoming freshmen at Mascoma High School. And it was nice to just be able to go into the school itself. So being able to get in front of the youth specifically would be really nice, outside of just the parents, and also get in front of not just the freshmen, but make sure we're getting in front of the entire high school, as well as maybe some of the middle school kids who are on the older side.
Any questions, comments, concerns? We have once again turned into an officer meeting plus Stacy. So maybe it might be worth discussing at an officer meeting if we need to look at the time and date of these meetings to see if maybe people's schedules have shifted. So anyway, just putting that on a back burner, mostly to remind myself to bring that up at the next officers meeting. All right, so the next thing on the agenda is just to take some time for those of you on the call. If you have any partner updates or needs from folks, we'd be happy to hear just what's going on, anything that you need from us or other people on the call, anything you want in the minutes, understanding that, again, it goes out to our network of people. And just as a shameless plug, I'll be working on the October newsletter over the next week. So if there's anything that you would love to go in that newsletter, I'd be happy to throw it in there. We've got about a little over 700 people that receive it. Not anywhere near that open rate, but still it goes out to a good handful of people. So it's an opportunity just to get any information out to that listserv.
I think I already shared about our Nalox box launch, which was incredibly exciting because it took, years, at least a year, maybe more. But things move slowly here, as you guys know. We are always looking for education to share with parents. So I'm really heightened to that. We have parents and you have information. And so we should talk some more about how I can help connect the parents to you in a way that is also okay with us, right? So I'm thinking about specifically our new hires who come in, who are in that younger category. Maybe we can somehow add on an extra training when they come in, and it could be on the mental health first aid for that age group is really interesting to me. So we should talk some more about that. So no other announcements, but I just have a heightened awareness of the fact that you're trying to get information to parents and we have parents. So we should just give that some more thought. And I think every time you guys put out a newsletter, it gets better and better, but the last one I thought was really fabulous. There was just so much really rich information that I found useful. So.
Good. Thank you, Stacy. And I did put in the chat, we can touch base offline about those Operation Parent Handbooks. I'd be happy to, like I said, we've got a pretty decent sized budget. So I'd be happy to set some aside for you just so that you can take a look at and maybe give it to a few people, get their ideas. And then as far as I know, I don't think there's any real discount for like bulk ordering, but it doesn't hurt. It's hard to say. We have to go through Dartmouth-Hitchcock. So, you as the Hope Foundation, maybe you could get a different discount. I'm not quite sure, but I'm happy to provide some for you. I don't have any on hand. We have to place an order. But I'm happy to provide a good handful to you so that you can look through it and maybe see if it's something you'd want to invest in
That'd
in
be
the
great.
future.
Years ago, I had one and I went down this whole rabbit hole, but they were quite costly.
They are.
Um, and
They're not super cheap, but they're chock full of information.
they
So
seem good. So yeah, I'd love to see some new ones, and that's a great idea. I can run it by some parents. So thank you.
yeah. Any other updates from folks or needs? No, okay. So the only thing, really the last thing is I'm going to put in our, actually, Hillary, if you don't mind, can you put in the evaluation form link into the chat? If you don't mind, oh, just opened up on me. If you don't mind filling out, just opening up so that you have it when you exit out of this WebEx, but our evaluation form, and that's a good way for us to get some ideas about future presenters that people might be interested in hearing from. So if you could take some time just to fill that out. But the next meeting we wanted to just get an idea is it's actually scheduled for the day before Thanksgiving. So we wanted to see if folks would be okay with us moving it up a week to have it be Wednesday, November 17th instead. So same time, 3:30 to 5, or however, you know, if it doesn't quite go till 5. But unless anybody has like a major, I absolutely do not want it that day, I think we'll go ahead and in the minutes let people know that that's going to be the new date for the November meeting. And I'm getting thumbs up from a lot of people, so we'll go ahead and we'll do that. We'll put it in the minutes. Hillary will, you know, I'll change the calendar update. Hillary will have it in the email reminders, so so you won't forget it. So otherwise, anybody have any last minute things that they'd like to share? No? All right. Well, thank you so much, everybody. I giggle at this phrase, but I'm going to use it. We're giving you 10 more minutes back in your day. So it's not quite an hour, but you've got 10 additional minutes to go ahead and do whatever. So thank you so much for hopping on. As always, it's great to see everybody, and enjoy the rest of your week.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye, everyone.